Our next conversation is going to be about the Constitution, and we are joined by an expert on Constitution matters, Bobby Mkangi. He was among those who drafted this Constitution that we have today as a member of the Committee of Experts on Constitution Review. Bobby, good morning.
Morning, Eric.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good to see you this year.
Thank you. Good to see you too. Asante nawe pia.
Unakaa imara. Safi sana. Karibu sana. That's a hot seat of the situation. No?
It is, I know.
Very good.
Finally here.
Yes. Bwana Muga will give you the day's proverb.
Yeah.
Every week, Muga goes to one African country, supported by EcoBank, and in that country he looks for the various proverbs from the various people of that country, and then he brings us the proverbs. This week, he's in Zimbabwe. Have you been to Zimbabwe?
Yes, I have. Beautiful country.
Very good. City, the day's proverb, make it beautiful.
Yes, today's proverb actually is beautiful. Beautiful in what it actually presents and represents. Passion is of greater consequence than facts.
Passion is of greater consequence than facts. What's the interpretation of that?
Wow. Passion is of greater consequence than fact. Interesting. I was watching something yesterday on YouTube, Big Mind channel. It's a channel that deals with, to put it in a milder way, intellectuals and creatives, artists, scientists.
Akina you now.
Akina who?
Akina you.
No. when I grow up, and they were talking. One of the people was being interviewed. In fact, the topic was about why people create. And one of the people was being interviewed, the three personalities, creatives, was I think his name is Sam. If I remember, Sam Almin. He is a musician. He likes calling himself an audio engineer. And he was talking about the music he has produced. He's one of those who is produced even the likes of big heavyweights like Guns N' Roses, Rolling Stones, very big hits. But money to him is not the primary cause. But he was talking about records and producing records, and he gave an example. He said, somebody told him once that when you go to a record store, I hope the young can watching and listening can associate with this. In the olden days, when you go to a record store, and then you'd have cartons or racks down here, and there'd be those records that have been, for lack of another better word, rejected. And they would be put there. Maybe those who go to bookstores now see it. Maybe these books haven't sold, so they're out on discount. And it said, he was told that, or somebody mentioned to him that those records are perfect. It's not that they're out of tune, out of key. They're probably perfect in the sense of the music language. But why are they in those crates to be sold off or given away? And so he was saying when he produced, he did not really care about those technicalities of
well, it ended
key,
up in there.
It's in tune, but really what the passion that got to the listener, the thing that made the difference between what a listener will buy one record, what will make somebody buy one book and not the other. And I think that relates to the beautiful proverb you've given to us from Zimbabwe, that passion at times is what leads us to, or our feelings and our trend towards an issue is what makes us relate with it more than the technical aspects. But however, that also has consequences, because at times we may end up getting something that is not of the best quality, of the best consequence when we disregard those particular issues or facts. But just to tell us or to let us know that at times it is what, as the Waswahili say, kipendacho roho then you cannot really prevent it, even with facts. Yes.
As you were speaking, what came to mind is how it is if you are in a rally and you want to lay down the facts and say, let me explain to you what 1 billion shillings can do. It represents X hospital, X school, as opposed to so and so must go.
Yes.
So and so must go. Which one do you think will resonate better?
In this country?
Yes.
So and so must go.
Yes. the visceral resonates better than the cerebral in most of the times. Yeah, so I think the emotions will resonate better than our concepts and our ideas.
Yeah.
And I think politicians, people who take to the pulpit, politicians,
preachers,
evangelists,
yes.
They've understood it.
Yes.
And musicians.
Yes.
Bobby, we've been having very many conversations about the Constitution.
Yes.
This is constitutional, this is unconstitutional, the law is very clear. Everybody nowadays, will tell you, no, the Constitution, this goes against the Constitution. This has not met the constitutional threshold. And this is now actually a national conversation, even on matters that have been taken before court, and they, fall out politically from court decisions. Very many things that we've invited you here this morning to ask you, is the Constitution being violated? But I can even amend that a little bit to ask, is the Constitution being understood in the first place, to a point where we are understanding that we are violating the Constitution deliberately, knowingly or unknowingly or not? From the boardroom sittings that you had, and you're looking at the Boma's draft, the Wako draft, and there are many other drafts, and comparing with other input, and you give us the harmonized draft constitution. Did you actually see us getting to this point where we are having all these conversations about Katiba implementing and not implementing?
To some extent, yes. And that's why I think Kenyans designed the constitution the way it is right now, with the theory that power will always want to bolt and take control, eat up everything. And that's why they designed a constitution that, when you look to the pith of it, is a constitution that attempts to tame power. And they did this because of the history they had had for 50 years, since 1963, and even perhaps going back during the colonial days. So Kenyans had come to experience and know that power untamed becomes a leviathan that will eat up and gobble up everything. And that's why they drew up this constitution with very, very deliberate provisions, deliberate design that would ensure that power was tamed. And in this regard, the way they crafted the state gave, say, the institution that has, would say, most power. I don't want to say all the power, but most power. And would say also the potentially most dangerous power, the executive, was what Kenyans were really looking at. And that's why eventually we even changed our system from what was a semi-parliamentary system to now what is a presidential system with separation of powers, clear fences, picket fences around who holds, what holds, and how power is wielded, the agency of it all. And we can see, if I cut to the chase, and with the context of why we are discussing this, how the judiciary has come out to be. I think that is one thing Kenyans really designed very well, knowing that at the end of the day we have these three arms, and even included a fourth one, what some people call the guarantor institutions. Those are the constitutional commissions, to even buttress the traditional three arms that we have. And so the judiciary was the one to ensure that when the executive in the traditional nature and culture of an institution that has been given a lot of power, that it will want to gobble, want to eat up, will want to mess up with everyone else. And then the legislature, again, with the experience that the legislature, there is the potential that it may be eaten up. And we've seen this, the emasculation of the legislature, including legislators themselves, agreeing that the institution right now cannot really tame the executive. But we had the institution of last resort, which is the judiciary, which, if all this fail, if the executive, as expected, and that's why we have the judiciary, as expected, will attempt to go beyond the fences that Kenyans have created. And if the legislature also fails to tame this institution, then Kenyans have somewhere they can go, and that is the judiciary. So when you look at this design, you can tell that, yes, Kenyans understood the nature of power. They understood the nature of power, especially when put in an institution that, like the executive, and that is why they created these fences and these methods and these concepts that ensure that this institution can be held and checked. And so for us, as you are asking, when we're looking at the documents and also listening to Kenyans, and also understanding, because when you go through the process of putting together a constitution, one of the things that you go really into the depth of is the history of the country. And so when you look at the history of this country and what eventually we thought would be the panacea to the problems that are eating the country, we knew that, again, the changes would not come within an afternoon. We knew that we will take time as a country. Not an excuse for us and the current misbehavior we are seeing, but in terms of knowing that we do not, or the Constitution is not a magic wand that as of August 27, 2010, everything would become utopian. Every Kenya would become the heaven that we think of it. And so in that regard, we somewhat did expect to see the push and pull, considering that the political climate, the people that were, and especially the politicians. We've had the same crop of politicians, and especially at the top level, that we've had, for instance, in the last 30 or so years. And so the mindset, the thinking has really not exactly, and has not really changed. And it is through the machinations that we are seeing right now, them doing as they wanted or they used to do prior to 2010, and people going to court or to parliament and to other institutions to tell them, hey, there's a new baby in town, there's a new rule book, and through these processes, slowly we are probably reconditioning ourselves, we are reconditioning our leadership, but the short of it is, personally, I expected. In fact, if I can give you an anecdote, there's a friend of mine till today who tells me I owe him a cup of coffee, because as of 2010, I promised him that around 2015-16, we're going to see very many governors impeached or thrown to jail because they would be caught in so many corruption and abuse of office incidents. And why did I say that? Because I actually expected that as we start transitioning, as we start implementing this constitution, it will take time before we see people really pay heed and adherence to the tenets of the Constitution. Right. And I think this, to me, in as much as it is disappointing, I am not surprised, shocked.
So are you saying, Bobby, that essentially things are running without regard of the Constitution, whether there is an understanding of it, whether there is an acknowledgement that it exists, and what people are supposed to do abiding by the tenets that it has then created, people, institutions are operating without regarding the Constitution?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, we can't only look at what is going wrong. There are many things that are going right. The infrastructural aspects of what the Constitution demands, many of those are actually on the right track. I did watch segments of the interview you had with Governor Wanga. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she was talking about devolution and her experience as the Homa Bay County Governor and what has been achieved and the challenges. So devolution is one aspect, in as much as we still have many problems, but is one thing that Kenyans can, write home about. The other is the institution that we're just talking about, and everyone is talking about the past 2-3 weeks, but when you think about it, it's been the past 14 years, since promulgation of the Constitution, the judiciary. It's one of the institutions that it's really, in a sense, and especially for those Kenyans who can remember how things were prior to 2010, that is really surprising Kenyans, because it was taboo previously for any institution, especially the judiciary, to tell the executive no. To tell the executive you are wrong. I think these are culture shocks to Kenyans. It's almost unexpected. And again, also we are seeing a lot of activity from individual Kenyans, civil society organizations. A lot of what has been eventually termed as being wrong and seeking to be repaired. Cases have been taken to court by civil society organizations, and so those elements we can say that we are happy with. There's room for improvement, and we have to get those strengthened. But again, there are those that we really need to as we like saying, kemea. We really need to fight, and it's in the regard of situations that actually made Kenyans fight for this constitution in the first place.
For the constitution,
clamor for this. When you talk of runaway corruption, when you talk about abuse and misuse of office, both at the national and county level and in other public institutions. When you talk about, even now, there's a topic around, or the issue about the cost of living, which sometimes to me, I like, saying, we have to trace it to the reason why Kenyans wanted a new constitution. At the end of the day, the constitution, amongst other things, must be material to Kenyans. Kenyans want to have bread on the table. They want to know they have sent their children to schools where their children are going to be educated and well educated, not just educated. They want, young people want to wake up and hustle or go out to their jobs where they're employed. And so all these things, I remember during the run up to August 2010, the sense of hope, the mood of hope that Kenyans had around these things, around these material things. And so when today, the 31st of January 2024, I look back and ask myself, for the ordinary Kenyan, whether these things are material or not. So in that sense, I'll say, unfortunately, the organization and the mobilization that we've done has been out of the rail of what the railway that the Constitution intended. So in that regard, we disregard the Constitution. But again,
there are those, Bobby, that argue that actually the Constitution has put in some roadblocks to the speedy realization of these dreams and ideals, which is the reason why you've seen all the people who have come up with proposed amendments to the Constitution. That's the basic reason. That yes, we have a constitution, but it is putting so many stumbling blocks on our journey towards heaven, the realization of what we wanted. When you talk about Punguza Mizigo by Third Way Alliance, or the Punda Mechoka, the first one by Raila and CORD, the BBI, the new attempts by this current administration, it's all saying that the constitution is there, but it's too rigid. It's not allowing us to breathe and therefore move as fast as we'd like to move.
I think they have to look at it also in the sense of what happened when we had a short fence to try and tame power. Power actually ate us up. And I think that's why Kenyans created this constitution, as I said earlier, with this design of ensuring that every detail, every aspect that can be tethered is actually tethered. And I would tell you that this constitution that we have, when you look at the drafts that eventually birthed this one, they were actually stricter. One of the things that Naivasha did was probably to let go of some of that detail. And some will argue that it's that detail that was in the previous drafts, the harmonized draft, the proposed Constitution of Kenya draft that went to Naivasha. That it is those details that were removed from the different aspects of the things like corruption, fighting corruption, the chapter on corruption. Today we have a deficit in terms of gender representation in our national parliament, and why is that? Because the provision that was supposed to activate this principle was removed, and so it is those aspects that Kenyans must look at, and it's not a long time since that experience of history.
So what are you saying?
What I'm trying to say is that why these attempts at remolding the constitution have not been successful is because as of August 27, 2010, or August 4th, 2010, when Kenyans went to vote during the referendum, the document that we had nailed down was capturing a very delicate aligning of the stars moment for Kenyans. It is a moment that culminated the fights, the throws, the passions, the facts that Kenyans had been haggling around and about since, we'd say even 64, when we started tweaking the independence constitution, but primarily the late 80s up to 2010. So this delicate balance that Kenyans captured in August 2010 is very difficult to unravel today, and because Kenyans created a rigid but fluid in a sense. It's rigid in the sense that you cannot tinker with it easily, but it's fluid in the sense that if you pay regard and you use the provisions that are in the Constitution, for example, the judiciary. Why are we saying that certain aspects of the judiciary are working? Because the way we designed how to shield the institution itself, but also how to shield particular agents of the institution, and that is the judges, we can see that it is bearing fruits. Because one weekend we'll argue that, like was 2 weeks ago, the Chief Justice should not meet the executive or other personalities, of state, because of various reasons that have been handed out. But within the same week, a decision that is deemed to be anti-government or anti-executive is pronounced, because the judge or the judges that are working on those cases know that they are protected individually in making those decisions. So what I'm trying to say is that if we use the Constitution properly, it is fluid enough as it is right now to be able to animate and actually get the outcomes that Kenyans wanted. The problem has been that we have not yet exhausted some of these provisions, pushed them to the optimum, so that we are able to say we have tried our level best with this provision, but we are seeing that this comma is the one that is defeating us. Can we remove this comma and then the floodgates will be opened? And I think that's why whenever, in as much as there have been reasons of politics and other factors, that we have been, till today, been unable to unravel this magic moment that Kenyans said, we can work with this going forward, because it's a give and take compromised document.
You know, this constitution and its implementation was railroaded right at the very beginning. When you had a commission whose function was to oversee the implementation of this particular constitution, see, people read half of what its mandate was. They say it was intended to last 5 years. No, that is not full. Or, there's an or to it, or when the constitution was fully implemented. And even then, Parliament had the prerogative and had the leeway to amend its life. It was supposed to periodically ensure that the constitution was being properly amended. Now, when you do away with such a commission, okay, before we even understood what this thing is, how exactly do you think we are actually going to implement this? Because we have other commissions that were created, independent as they were, they're still alive and well. Then, the president has the sort of powers that he can even influence the creation of the individuals, I'm using the word creation deliberately, who infuse these commissions. So essentially, he can extend his power through these commissions. The one commission that would have helped with understanding and interpreting these things is done away with after 5 years. So now, it's open season.
The Commission for the Implementation of the Constitution.
Yes.
What was the thinking behind it?
Just what CT said. We needed, and at that time when it was conceptualized, I think at Bombers, it was thought, and again borrowing from what Ghana had done, although Ghana's institution was, in terms of its mandate, was a bit thin compared to the Kenya CIC. But I think there's one thing I'll mention that they got right, that we didn't get right, was an institution that was going to oversee, to ensure that there is guidance, there is a stewardship around how we are going to get right the animation of the constitution, making it real. Again, it goes to the history. Kenyans thought that if we leave this in the air, we say we have a constitution, the constitution requires certain things to be done so that it can mature. We need laws to activate it. We need institutions to make sure that it can walk and run. But if we leave it to silence, and the history Kenyans had is nothing will ever get done, and that's why the institution was created. Now, what Ghana got right at that time when they got their constitution in the 90s was that they got an institution that was going to deal with civic education, primarily civic education. It was going to go out and educate the wananchi there about the new constitution, what it means and their rights, etc., which was quite noble. Ours, on the other hand, there was the debate around whether it should only deal with the technical aspects of ensuring that we get the attentive laws and institutions going. But unfortunately, we were thin on the civic education, which I think is quite elementary, because once wananchi know, once there is a deliberate attempt of going out and talking to wananchi, letting them know what the document has and what it means to them, then it means you heighten and strengthen their ability to use the same document, but more so hold their leadership and ensure they're accountable and ensure their sovereignty is protected. And so I think as CT says, unfortunately, after the CIC, and I remember there was discussion when their time shelf life was coming to an end, whether their term should be extended or not. Itself, the institution said we don't want any extension. I think we have like 98% of the acts we're supposed to have enacted done, and so we feel happy with what we've done. But you remember that within those 5 years, unfortunately, the element of civic education did not happen, and that's why we lost.
But Bobby, I find this interesting. 40 years. We've had a draconian system which is centered upon an individual. Then you actually think that in 5 years you can turn this thing around? Really? 5 years?
I agree with you, CT.
But you see,
that,
they were given the job of drafting the laws.
I'm saying
And they
you
drafted
draft the law
laws.
based on the reality that you have in the country. That thing should have been given 10 years minimum. Because really, turning around 40 years of impunity where people do what they like. The moment the oversight body is gone, it is so much easier to revert back.
And sadly, and sadly, sorry to cut you short,
No, it's all right, yes.
is that we have that, but we also have the parliamentary
CIOC. The committee
for implementation of the Constitution.
Implementation Oversight Committee.
Exactly. Which was working with the CIC. With the CIC lapsed. This committee, the parliamentary committee, is still there. And so it is the one that primarily right now is the one that's supposed to be giving us guidance.
The same one which is constituted of individuals who you said, Bobby, a few minutes ago, have been emasculated by another arm of the same government.
That's the problem.
So how can that happen?
That's a problem. And that's why now what has been left, this gaping hole, is what now a few individuals, a few civil society organizations have taken up that role to try and keep an eye on how and track how we're implementing this constitution. And whenever they see something of fault, we see them in court. But I agree that we need to strengthen, and perhaps for me at that time, debating what the CIC should do, extending their time, maybe we should have come up with another institution. I know there's the program around civic education. There's a Kenya national program. I don't know where it is right now, but I think we should have had a deliberate effort around public education and information on the Constitution. I would have supported an institution that beyond the 5 years of putting laws would have now come up to say we have a 5-year or more targeted program on ensuring that the right information, right education is given to wananchi around the Constitution. I think that really strengthens the understanding and the core of what this document
I have a feeling that it may not have delivered much. After the 5 years, there was a loss of steam all over. You created other institutions. For example, there is the National Commission on Human Rights, right? That, if it was doing as it's supposed to be doing, would be going a long way in ensuring that the Constitution is implemented the right way. In all the issues of the Bill of Rights would be there. They split themselves up, as allowed by the Constitution, into the Gender Commission as well. The Gender Commission, you've just raised the issue of the gender imbalance in national officials of leadership. We have a commission that's on gender. It should be oversighting and ensuring that these things are realized. Here we are, 14 years later, we're still having a conversation with no clear direction in sight. We have other commissions, probably even this CIC. They've gotten to a point where now it's civic education, no money.
No money, no.
IEBC has the role of civic education. How much of civic education does the IEBC play? So we are at this point. Now I want to come back into the issue of the judiciary being sort of like the vanguard here and the one that is making sure that we understand the Constitution with constitutional interpretations, and then also making sure that these other two arms of government are playing by the book. These other two arms of government are political. in nature.
Yes.
They're led by politicians. The judiciary is supposed to be apolitical. The accusation now is that the judiciary is also being political. It's being captured by political elements that are not in any of these two arms of government, but they're now finding their way through the judiciary to play politics.
True, and that's why I think there was a lot of noise, coming out of different quarters. When there was a suggested meeting and eventual meeting between the head of the judiciary and the head of the executive, and I think the head of the National Assembly, and more so because of the optics that this meeting presented, and as you've rightly put it out, when you look at the judiciary and you go to the old theory of how the institution of the state came out, this was the institution that represents the persons of the cloth. It's an institution that within the trinity of the state is supposed to wear the halo. It is the one that walks around with the tag of the cliche of Caesar's wife to operate beyond reproach. And so it is the institution that must not only do what it's supposed to be doing, and that is delivering justice, but must also be seen to be doing it in a way that any Tom, Dick, and Harry would look at it and say, we trust you, and we still have hope in you.
And is it?
And so far, yes, but unfortunately, the activities in the recent past are what are causing alarm in terms of whether these operations are an attempt, and we've seen various attempts, because sometimes, even going back to the former administration, the disobedience of court orders, blatant circumvention of provisions of the Constitution, in a way was supposed to belittle and demean the place of the Constitution, and in that sense the sovereignty of Kenyans. And so this is an ongoing process, because as the rhetorical question guiding our discussion today is Constitution being violated. Yes, it is being violated, and we have been violating it since August 2010 in the various ways we had discussed earlier. And so I think this last vanguard, definitely there is an attempt to try, because it's now the stumbling block. And we said, what is being tamed? What's the theory of our Constitution? It's around taming power, and a lot of this power is held at the executive institution. That's why we try to ensure there are fences around taming. We are saying this is an important institution, the executive. It has to have these powers, but we have to control these powers in this way. And so we've managed so far, because we have this gate called the judiciary. And so obviously the executive will, after emasculating the legislature, the next will be the independent offices, the constitutional offices, of which I agree that they leave a lot to be desired. The commissions and independent offices, they leave a lot to be desired by Kenyans or from Kenyans. And so the last one is the judiciary. And so all these small attempts, this is what Kenyans fear, that these are small attempts that we know when a drop of water falls on even a rock. One small drop of water consistently dropping will eventually carve out a hole, on a rock. And so these are small drops that are being thrown at this institution. The beauty of it is that Kenyans designed this institution in a very, very good way, because it is two-layered. You protect the institution, and I think that's why Article 160 speaks to the independence of the institution. But you go further and find that it also protects the independence of the agents of this institution, that even the institution itself cannot, in a way, control how those agents of the institution work, in the sense that the Chief Justice cannot command a judge or a magistrate on how
To rule.
Yeah.
She can try.
Yeah. She can try, yes, but, and that's why agency is very important. In fact, that's a very important thing Kenyans need to remember. Agency is important. Agency in terms of the people you put in place to animate this constitution.
Sorry,
That's where
Bobby,
the
that's
issue of
very
leadership.
interesting. Yeah, it's very
Who you
interesting
vote
that-
for.
Yeah.
Is it somebody who is going to live by what the constitution says, or by what their political party says, or political leader?
It's interesting that you say that, because if you look at, and I think one of the things with this is that with the opening up of these doors, you see a lot more in terms of interrogation
Yes.
of what these things actually mean.
Yes.
And we can't run away from the fact that, look, last week when we saw the visit by the Chief Justice to State House, the assumption then, thereafter, was that everything that comes out of the judiciary then will be then in a more, emollient light.
Exactly.
And then come Friday and 1, 2, 3, which now would buttress what you're saying, that, look, the agents of the judiciary, the judicial officers, are protected by the Constitution, but their independence is also protected within the judiciary, because then they're not beholden by the Chief Justice and whatever she or he may do. But that within the law and constitutionally, they then still are able to make decisions because of that protection that is accorded to them. Whereas people on the outside would have thought, well, okay, well, this is all going to go to blazes because we're now friends.
Yes, but I think also we, as I was saying, those small drops. That's what we should not rest on our laurels. That you see, the institution is still independent because the agents are. Once you start opening small gates, getting small holes into the institution, and unfortunately, and God forbid, for instance, you find that the JSC is captured, then the JSC now is controlled around who it can hire, who it can fire, and when it should fire.
And who it can promote.
Yes, and who to promote and who not to, So eventually then we'll lose the institution because now we'll go back to the Moi days. Yes.
Consider for a second, we refer to the Moi era, we refer to the Kenyatta era, we refer to the Kibaki era. Now, at the helm there's the president, but then there are the men and women around these people. And we forget how beholden they can be to the people around them.
Yes.
It's assumed that these people reign and rule absolutely as though they were gods. You only need to consider, at promulgation, people like yourself who were the champions of the Constitution, many got into government. Now, we then had a front row seat to observe how power corrupts. And we've been observing it for some time. Because if some of these individuals lived up to the credential they had presented, we would not be discussing these problems that we have now, because these are the people whom we knew would bring us. We are the promised land.
Yes.
Now the milk and honey would actually be evident. It's rocks and thistles. Yes.
What you're saying is, and sometimes you meet some of them and they say, there's a theory when outside it's different when inside. But you have a choice. You have a choice. You have a choice. No one is forcing you to serve the public. If you feel you cannot take up the pressure, don't apply for that job in the first place. Don't go for it. There are thousands of Kenyans who choose not to apply for these jobs because they look at what it entails and they know their wherewithal and they say, you know what, I don't think I have the personality for this. And also, when you're serving, yes, you may take up a portfolio thinking that things are going to run kosher, and then there are phone calls and the directions that come. The Constitution also gives you the leeway to resign. And that's why, for me today, I think what I would like to remind Kenyans is that, is that let's not only look at the institution the institution of the Constitution in abstraction. We have to remember that there are agents, and these are the people we call leaders. So, for instance, today we are talking about the judiciary, and we are talking about it because we are looking at it as a, dam waters that are coming to the gates, and we are feeling as if the gates will eventually give way. And why is that? Because the institution that is supposed to be the in-betweener, that is supposed to actually cushion Kenyans in the first place, the representatives, the legislature, the agents of it, the legislators, wabunge, waheshimiwa, are letting down Kenyans. So we go back to the question, in 2027, Kenyans must interrogate. I know it sounds like a broken record, but Kenyans must really ensure that we get leadership right.
Very good. Bobby Mkangi, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for
Constitutional lawyer. Keep it here for more conversations.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.